and actually outline the subject, just like cartoons do with a black line often around the outside, and then effectively colour in the centre of that. It's a bit harder when you come to doing more real life objects, because of course you don't get outlines around very many real life objects. If there's anybody watching out there, feel free to say hello in chat. If you've got any questions, again, just ask them. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to answer, but I can certainly try. One of the interesting things about pyrography is often you can use two different styles with it. You can either go positive or negative, and that is, you can do what would normally be white or light areas dark, so you create a negative style image, or you can actually do it as you might expect, darker is darker. It produces some very interesting effects doing it other way, doing it as a negative. You don't necessarily look particularly unreal doing it either. It just seems to be a characteristic of this particular form, that they can actually look quite natural, and they can be very good for things like nighttime, moonlight type images. They can often be very nicely done with pyrography. Actually, I'll swap pens. Oops, there's it. In actual fact, I shall switch pens altogether. I'm going to do is change to using a writing tip. Turn the temperature down on this. I'm just going to outline the windows. The reason for using this particular tip is that it's actually rounded. It's a wire, a round wire. Whereas using the edge of the spoon shader, it's quite sharp. What I want to do here is really not actually dig in. And using the edge of the spoon shader, if you're not careful, you get effectively like a knife. One of the other things you have to be careful of with pyrography, or when you're doing pyrography, it's a bit like with carving. That is, you're going to watch the grain of the wood, because certain parts of wood, if you take something like pine, it's actually got hard and soft elements within effectively the rings of the tree. And when you're burning, then what you can get is you can get the soft elements that burn really easily, and you can get a really dark thick line, and the harder elements don't burn as easily, and you get a thin line, and it doesn't take the burn quite as well. And if obviously one of the goals often is to get a consistent line, and if you're going across grain, that can be really hard to do on some materials. Now something like this, which is hardboard, don't so much have that particular problem, because of course it's made out of almost sawdust which has been glued together. But what you do get is you still do get small areas which are softer or burn more easily than others, and then you get an inconsistent line. You get like a blob on the line, almost like you dropped a spot of ink. Can feel the effect of the grain just across there. Although you probably can't see it, it's a series of like ridges. These particular lines are being quite dark because in practice what you've got here is a black rubber edging to the windshields. So I can actually take this as dark as the wood will allow me to do so. another area, another rubber seal around this side window here, so I shall fill this in at the moment. Around this window here, though, it's actually a white frame. Probably because it looks like it's a sliding window. Of course, if you don't like the smell of burning wood, then this is not an art form, or at least not a hobby for you. One of the things I might do at this point in time also is put in the rails, or at least an indication of the rail head. I think it looks like it's the edge of the rails probably, which is a better description. But most rails have a shiny top. What you get is the side of the rail, which is usually quite dark. And what I'm doing with this is effectively doing it on somewhat of an overcast day, while the image is somewhat of an overcast day, so it's going to be quite dark overall. The other thing about pyrography is, of course, it's a very warm thing to do. I've effectively got a small electric fire in my hand. And it actually does put a limit also, incidentally, on how long you can do this for, because the pens do heat up. This one is quite warm. It's got foam around the tip here of the pen to help insulate, and the body is actually hollow with slots cut in it here and on the bottom, so actually that does tend to make the a small airflow go through the pen, which helps keep the core cool, but it's not a particularly pronounced effect. The main artistic license will do the same on this side as well, but we'll keep off the railhead. A little bit more temperature on this. Feeling the grain quite a bit on this tool. Sometimes turning the temperature up can help just smooth over that grain. This actually isn't reacting very well. What you do is try using the spoon shader. Also give that pen time to cool off as well. Now this one actually is a bit harder to do, to get that sort of same width out of it. Yes, it's going to go as black, but despite the fact it's fairly fiddly a thing to do, it might actually turn out better. Because being spoon shaped, it's kind of riding over the grain. Okay, carry on. Nope, I'm not getting the quality of line that I want, so I'm going to do a switch back to the writer. The writing tip. Now I'll have to go back and oops, need to turn that back up. Need to go back now over this line and darken it down because I want this fairly dark. Again, it's one of the darkest parts of the image. I'll just deal with the issues of grain later. Okay, this is mainly just a practice piece because it's been a while since I've done much pyrography, and it takes a little bit of getting used to the pens again, and I'm doing this on hardboard as a practice material because it's relatively cheap. And it's quite a relatively smooth wood, which makes it easy to get a decent image out of than some of the woods. And just get your eye and hand coordination back in. But it does have some problems with using plywood. Hardboard. And one of the problems is, of course, it's dark, which actually reduces the range of shades that are available when you burn the wood. Because if you start with a light wood like pine or spruce, something like that, then of course you can use some very light shading and actually get lighter than this when you're burning the wood, and it's those shades that you lose. Probably something like about half the range. Got the heat turned up on this pen at the moment. One of the problems of that is if I don't have it on the wood for a while, it actually heats up. Surprising how much heat the wood conducts away, and if it heats up too much, of course, as soon as I put it back down on the wood, what I then get is almost a deep hole, which is not what I want. You might just have seen then a puff of smoke coming off the surface, and that was because the tip was hotter than I wanted it to be. You are not, although its pyrography is literally burning, we're not exactly setting fire to this stuff, and it's not really charring it either. What we're actually doing almost is cooking the resin, or the sap that's in the wood, and that actually causes it to go dark as usual with perspective, I need this line to get thinner as I go further away, and I will actually have to change pens shortly, as this one actually is getting too hot now and will become uncomfortable to hold. So we'll just flip that over and leave that pen to cool off. And what I might do at this point in time is just try switching to another pen and see if I can get my spoon shader to work. Now that involves me getting out a screwdriver to just change tips on that particular pen. Don't normally like doing this, but